Danny, would you be in the left tackle market even if it meant paying a over a 2-year deal, let's say, for someone coming off of injury? So, like David Bakhtiari, the longtime Green Bay Packer, recently said he wants to play and he has 2 years left in him and he thinks he could play at a high level for 2 years. Or DJ Humphries is coming off of a serious leg injury where I don't know if he's going to be ready for week 1, but he can be had right now. He's available. You could sign him, rehab him, and get him on the field within a few weeks into the season. Or do you think the Commanders actually have a plan that is worth exhausting? Do they have a way forward here that is worth kicking the tires on with Cornelius Lucas, who's super cheap? So if he's actually decent, like Charles Leno was when he got his shot, you've saved a lot of money, and that's a massive win. And if you go get a Bakhtiari or a Humphreys, it probably means Brandon Coleman doesn't get a shot this year. And the rookie you just drafted might not play as soon. Are you of the belief they should sign one of those guys and kind of cross their fingers and kick the tires? Or are you okay playing the long game, seeing who gets cut closer to the season, and continuing to move forward with Lucas and Coleman?
I would set a record for how fast I sign one of those guys. Immediately. I would do it. I would have done it yesterday. I would do it now. And now. Every second. To me, they've got a plan. It's clear they do. I disagree with the plan. I don't think it's a good plan. I think it's too big a risk. I'm not saying David Bakhtiari or DJ Humphreys or, 15-year veteran Dwayne Brown, who's still a free agent, is the answer. I'm saying they don't have an answer in my mind. And I'm going to throw bodies at the problem. My time to draft a marquee guy came and went. They missed their shot, whether it was not the price to trade back into the first round was too expensive. Free agency was a pretty thin crop. They didn't want to pay Tyron Smith, or maybe they lost the bidding, or maybe they didn't try to bid at all, or maybe they didn't want to come here. I have no idea. But they were not very anxious to upgrade that left tackle spot. If this was we've got Justin Herbert, Pat Mahomes, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, I'd go, yeah, we have to get away with it. We're probably up against the salary cap. This is not the time to pinch pennies. This is not the time to go, well, we can't really afford it. We don't want to get tied to anything bad. You need to maximize and protect your quarterback. I think they have not done a good enough job in this regard. I would absolutely sign one of those guys because there's no rule that they have to start. There's no rule that says because you signed David Bakhtiari, who's coming off of huge injury, that he has to play 17 games. Let the best player play. I'm fine with that. I need more security than they seem to care about.
There's no rule that you got to play him, but it might take enough money that it warrants that you get him on the field. And it also, if it's going to take 2 years, and I don't know what the market is, we're just getting to a point now where we're about to find that out.
Mm-hmm.
I know the Cowboys supposedly have reached out, according to reports, and could bring him in as kind of same kind of deal as Washington.
Yep.
Possible reclamation, insurance policy for their current tackle situation. They actually drafted one of the guys that I thought the Commanders might target.
Guyton, who I wanted so
Tyler
bad.
Guyton out of Oklahoma in the first round.
They got to trade back to do it too, which really was fun.
They actually might they have a way better situation than Washington because they drafted a guy in the first round, but they might have the situation kind of we were banking on or hoping to have going into the draft for the Commanders, which is you probably just draft your tackle in round 1 and don't have to worry about it. So it might be a little less necessary for them to go get Bakhtiari. I don't know what he's asking for or what he wants. He is only 32. It feels like he's a lot older than that because he's basically missed 2 of the last 3 seasons in full. He played 11 games in 22, so he missed a big chunk of even that year. But in 2021, he played a game, got hurt, and in 2023, he played a game. This is a guy that was a first-team All-Pro twice, that was one of the All-Pros on the first or second team in 5 consecutive years, that made 3 Pro Bowls. So when he was cooking from 2016 to 2020, the pandemic year, for the Packers, protecting Aaron Rodgers' blind side as his best buddy on the team, he was arguably as good a tackler as there was in the league. I am still really intrigued. I would want to me, when you have all the money they have on a 1-year deal, it is worth it to me to pay him. If he's terrible or never gets healthy, so what? That is worth an investment. I'm paying to just make sure that he's not good. Because what if he is?
Yep.
What if it's behind him and he can give you 2, maybe it's not all pro seasons, but 2 fringe Pro Bowl, 2 a little better than Charles Leno, right? 2 years where your left tackle who wasn't on your roster ends up being pretty good and you signed him on July 2nd.
Yeah, like if you're the Chiefs, you probably can't afford to do it. Now, unless he wants to come to you on a discount and, make the league minimum or something. But you see what I'm saying?
That's an important point too. What do you have to lose, really? I mean,
Right.
it's not like if your left tackle that you signed is bad and you go to someone who's unproven and they're bad too. Now you're going to be a 5-win team. Okay, so what?
You don't want to make a habit of signing guys to bad contracts. That's just a rule of thumb for any sports team, right? This is what I've been arguing all offseason, and people are probably sick of me doing it, and we got a couple more months to go, so sorry about it. This is a special case. If you didn't draft a quarterback 2 overall, I don't know that I would say do that. I'd go, whatever, let's see if the young kid can do it. I don't have time to see if a young kid can do it. My see if a young kid can do it is playing the quarterback spot. I will not risk anything that I don't have to. I will overspend and fret and worry and stay up all night, staring at the ceiling in a cold sweat, praying that this kid stays healthy. And if I didn't unearth every stone or whatever, turn over every stone or unearth every gem, if I didn't do everything I possibly could and something happened, I would never forgive myself. I need more security. And you can't solve it with one guy. It'd be great to have a Trent Williams. It'd be great to have a Pro Bowl stud left tackle. That's not available right now. What you do have are bodies. You got a project in a rookie, the mid-round pick. You've got a veteran swing tackle on your own roster, a guy from last year that nobody thinks can play, and Braden Daniels. I am absolutely trying anything I possibly can, even if it's overkill. Overkill at that spot. I'm not saying overkill at middle linebacker, overkill at safety, overkill at fullback. I'm saying the left tackle spot. Yes, by all means, do everything you possibly can. Anything less, I think, is a mistake.
So I agree with all of that, except for basically the anti-young tackle getting a shot rhetoric. But everything else, I feel good about. Young tackles are inexperienced until they're not. There's a difference, I'm sure, in your mind between someone drafted at 10 and Brandon Coleman, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think there's something to be said for having to trust your own evaluation. You went and hired Adam Peters and Lance Newmark for a reason. And if they think a guy's really good or can do it, and when they're sitting down in the room with the coaching staff led by Dan Quinn, and those guys are confident and go, yeah, this guy can start for us. He can protect Jaden. We're fine. It's okay. If you have a guy good enough, then take that shot. I don't have any problem with that. There's a threshold that's got to be cleared. And if I'm counting on them to get it right, that they know what they're talking about. So I'm not as adamant against not having a young guy protect a rookie quarterback, because we see all the time first-year left tackles and first-year quarterbacks, or second-year left tackles, a second-year quarterback, first-year left tackle, whatever it is, like young guys protecting the QB. I think that's semi-normal. But the rest of that I agree with, which is to say you have no shortage of money. What are you waiting for? Why wouldn't you bring one of these guys in? I was arguing with an NFL media type about this recently, where they go, well, you don't know that Bakhtiari or Humphreys is any better than Cornelius Lucas.
Of course you don't.
And I'm going, well, first of all, I know that if they're healthy and play at their highest level, they're better. Now, you don't know that you're going to get that, but their ceiling is higher. And also, I don't care. It's competition. I'm just paying to bring them in to say the best man's going to win. Humphreys is more interesting from this perspective. He's not going to be ready in week 1, certainly. He got hurt. I think people forget about this. So DJ Humphreys, who was playing for the Arizona Cardinals, in fact, he played for Cliff Kingsbury throughout his time in Arizona. So Kingsbury knows him, presumably has a relationship with him. He got hurt on New Year's Eve this past year, like the final weekend of the season. So that's a long rehab for a torn ACL. I don't think he's going to miss the entire year, but he might miss the first half of the season. Is it worth signing him now if he's going to miss the first half of the year? I think that's a fair question. He's a good enough player, has been good recently enough, that I'd still consider doing that, because you're going to get him at a bit of a bargain. And then let's say he plays in the second half of this year, and you have him starting beginning in Jaden Daniels' second season in 2025, either on the left side, or let's say Coleman's really good. You can either play Coleman on the right, or maybe you could kick Humphreys over to the right and replace Andrew Wiley at that point. So I would be really interested in signing Humphreys, even if it's almost like for a red shirt, big chunk of this year, as a plan going into 2025, kind of buying a house when the market's down.
Yeah, if they were up against a salary cap, if they had to dig out from a bunch of bad contracts, which the only thing I give Rivera and that regime credit for is they didn't enter into a bunch of those. there aren't any bad contracts really in the organization that you're sort of figuring out how you're going to get out from. That to me is the best you can say about the previous group. So you are in a position of leverage. Again, this is all bets. This is all what you're really doing. It's like sitting down and watching rounders, right? The size of your stack is what matters more so than the cards you potentially possess. Maybe Brandon Coleman's really good. You can't tell that right now. I know your evaluation led you to draft him where you did, and that's all well and good at 67. Maybe you're right about Lucas. I don't. We don't know that yet. To me, this is too big a risk to go in without a one more body, one more person with a proven track record, and that guy may not win the job. But that insurance policy to me is worthwhile, right? It's like you live in a flood zone and you're going, well, I'm not going to get flood insurance because it hasn't happened. Well, we bought a house in this flood zone. There's a great chance it could happen. I got to have that insurance even if it never floods. I'm throwing bodies at this problem because the star is not available to me.
I wonder if they think we've got another guy and it's Trent Scott. Scott, who was here last year, started a couple games for Washington. He actually made 9 starts for the Chargers back in 2019, 22 career starts. He's played mostly as a special teams type, like 70 games in his career. He's been with the Panthers, the Chargers, the Steelers, and now here in DC. Maybe they view him as that kind of veteran, or that a broken down Bakhtiari, Humphreys not being able to help you early is no different than Cornelius Lucas or Trent Scott or those types of guys. Again, I'll disagree. I think the available players we're talking about are better and can help you more, but I'm only basing that on what they used to be a while ago.
Yep.
And maybe there's a better feel when these guys call around, talk to executives on the teams they played on. Humphreys is known by Kingsbury well enough, as I mentioned. I don't know that there's a tie directly to Bakhtiari, but maybe you could call Gutekunst and say, "Hey, man, what's the deal?" And he's like, I don't know if I would roll the dice there." Whatever.
Well, does it tell you
agent
anything
that,
also, by the way, that because of that connection with Kingsbury and Humphreys that they haven't signed him? Does that tell you something?
if he was more aggressively trying to get signed, yes, but it does not seem like the market really has started.
Hmm.
I also think, who's in a rush to sign him? He can't play early this
Yeah,
year.
that's true.
Right? So that's got to be part of it in his case. Bakhtiari will probably sign first. And I would not be surprised if the Cowboys sign him in the next week or something, based on the way the tea leaves are reading at this point. You said something I want to go back to, though. You said there's no way they could know right now if Coleman's any good. I don't think I agree with that. Workshop what you were trying to get at.
T-shirt, shorts, helmet. Nobody's really blocking. Nobody's really doing anything. Can you look good in 7-on-7? Sure. I don't think you're going to know until training camp. If Dorrance Armstrong is whooping his ass in every preseason practice or training camp, or when you have those inter-squad actions against the Jets or their other trip, and he's getting beat like a drum, or he's dominating, then you might have a better feel. I just don't think you can know yet.
Training camp will be more revealing, no doubt. The more work you're doing with pads, whatever. I do think coaches have an ability. Like right now, you can find everything you need to out about the guy, about the man, the work he's putting in, how quickly he's picking things up and processing things, his intelligence as a football IQ guy, how he carries himself, handles himself. Is he nervous out on the practice
You can
field?
gather
making
some data,
mistakes?
I think.
I think there's a ton of it. And then also the way he moves is so much more important to me. Like the traits. They're also doing some one-on-ones, and I know it's shorts and a t-shirt, but you're still having to, you're seeing his footwork and his athleticism and his mobility and his twitch and that first step lunge that he's got and his get off, and can he handle guys that are speedy around the edge in one-on-ones, and when he gets beat inside on a jab step, can he correct? Like, I think you can actually get a feel for a lot of that. Not to know exactly what he's going to be, but I think they probably know right now, like, this dude ain't ready in week 1, or this guy might actually be able to play for us this year. Just being around it back then, I remember that a lot, where it was like the plans at this point, they'll never admit it, but behind the scenes, they can go, I think we made a hell of a pick here. Like, I really like this guy, or it's going to take a little while. And I think they're probably already there with him, which is going to answer whether or not they feel like they got to go get someone in some way, maybe.
Indeed. And again, I think a couple different spots, they've taken some gambles in that regard, where they're trusting their own eval, where they think the incumbent is good enough or the room is good enough, et cetera. And me outside with, no stakes and nothing to do if I'm right or wrong, but basically saying, I disagree with your assessment at a couple different positions, right? And I think that's what's fun about this, is having these kinds of debates. So, yeah, I mean, the you're doing some evaluation. You're probably looking to confirm how correct you were in the draft selection process. So again, I don't necessarily trust you. You see plans change all the damn time, right? When it comes to players they drafted or how good somebody is, and then the results will tell you. Like week numbers 1 through 4, our plan is to go to this guy a whole bunch, and then all of a sudden he's inactive. Or we're going to start this guy off doing this and wait till you see it, and then he doesn't get any snaps for a month. I mean, that sort of tells you, right? So eval's right, wrong, and different. It's an inexact science. I know that. But I guess my point is this is such a risk. And I don't think they see it as a risk. I don't know how much everyone else sees it as a risk. You have drafted the future of your franchise. How we view everything that happens over the next decade, year, 2 years, 5 years, 7 years, 10 years, whatever beyond about this regime is about one player. And I hate to overstate that. But if Daniels is good, it masks everyone else's stink. It makes everyone's key cards work. I could not live with myself if I didn't do everything possible to maximize and protect. And I don't think they have. That's just my core philosophy. They don't share that. They're smarter than me. They know Adam Peters is more handsome than I am. He's got great hair, good chin. He's got that like 5 o'clock, hey girl, what's up, Shadow? He's a stud. I love him. Glad he's here. I just don't see it the way that he sees it, apparently. Because their inactivity here tells me that they're comfortable. I would not be comfortable.